You
on
said
taxes.
that every single House Republican, none of whom you talked to, would only support Israel if it was made easier for Americans to cheat on their taxes. Now, you said that, and you didn't talk to any of them.
Senator
But I
Scher,
just can't believe you would say this about members of Congress. It's pretty pejorative, vicious. Let me finish. Without talking to them. How many Republican congressmen or women did you talk to before you made that statement?
I was reacting to the fact that, and we've talked about it actually
Yes,
so
ma'am, but
far in this.
first, if you could, how many Republican congresswomen or congressmen did you talk to?
I didn't talk to them. I actually was just reacting to the legislation that was proposed.
You didn't talk to any of them?
No, sir.
Before you said that every single one of them supports Israel only if it is made easier for people to cheat on their taxes?
I actually don't think that every single one of them believe
But
that.
that's what you
But I
said.
do think
A Yale law professor walked into a Senate hearing room believing her academic credentials and a viral tweet were enough to accuse every single House Republican of prioritizing tax cheating, and Senator John Kennedy of Louisiana reminded the entire country why assumptions without evidence are not scholarship, they are recklessness dressed in a cap and gown. Kennedy did not raise his voice, he did not lose his composure, he simply asked the most devastating question a senator can ask a witness who has made sweeping public accusations about hundreds of people. How many of them did you actually speak to? The answer was zero. Not one phone call, not one email, not one conversation. A professor at one of the most prestigious law schools in the United States decided that she knew the moral motivations of every Republican member of the House of Representatives without ever seeking out a single one of their voices. Senator Kennedy held up a mirror to that reality and refused to put it down until the entire room understood what they were looking at. Take a look.
Professor Sarin, you're a professor at Yale Law School?
I am.
Okay. And I see you've been pretty active on Twitter. I'm looking at one of your tweets from a few months ago, October 30th, 2023. I'd like to read it to you. The House Republican stance is, I kid you not, support for Israel as long as we make it easier for people to cheat on their taxes. End quote. Did you tweet that?
That's correct, yes.
Okay. How many Republican congressmen or women did you talk to before you made that statement?
I was reacting to the fact that, and we've talked about it actually
Yes,
so
ma'am,
far in
but
this.
first, if you could, how many Republican congresswomen or congressmen did you talk to?
I didn't talk to them. I actually was just reacting to the legislation that was proposed.
You didn't talk to any of them?
No, sir.
Before you said that every single one of them supports Israel only if it is made easier for people to cheat on their taxes?
I actually don't think that every single one of them believe
But
that.
that's what you
But I
said.
do think that the legislation passed by the House reflects a statement of purpose that in order to support Israel, it's
But I'm
important
looking at
to
what you said.
allow
What your
taxpayers to
students
be able to
thought.
cheat on their
You
taxes.
said that every single House Republican, none of whom you talked to, would only support Israel if it was made easier for Americans to cheat on their taxes. Now, you said that, and you didn't talk to any of them.
Senator Kennedy,
Didn't.
I am struck by, and perhaps this is something on which we agree, that it is incredibly important to support Israel. It is also incredibly important to make sure that
Well,
taxpayers at the
I'm
top
not,
of the
we
distribution
agree on
pay their
Israel,
fair
but I
share.
just can't believe you would say this about members of Congress. It's pretty pejorative, vicious. Let me finish. Without talking to them. I mean, would it be possible for somebody to support a reduction to the IRS budget because they simply believe the federal government ought to have a balanced budget? Would that be a fair position?
That
Would that be a principled position?
except that that actually doesn't work with respect to defunding
Would
the
it be a
IRS.
principled position?
It wouldn't be an accurate position because
Okay.
defunding
But you
the
don't know because you
IRS
didn't talk to anybody, did you?
Well-
You just said it.
Defunding the IRS, the CBO agrees, everyone who's testifying today agrees that that is going to add to deficits, not reduce them.
Could it be that a House Republican wanted to reduce the IRS's budget because they think that the IRS is a model of inefficiency and shouldn't be rewarded with more money?
Well,
Could that have been a possibility, a motivation for the way they
Senator
voted?
Kennedy, I so appreciate that question because the reality,
Could that have been
that the
a
reason-
motivation for the way they voted?
and it relates very closely to what Senator
Could
King
that have
said,
been a motivation for the way they
reason
voted?
That you've seen an inefficient
Could that have
IRS,
been a motivation
If you
for
allow the
way they
witness to
voted?
answer, you might get your answer, Senator
It
Kennedy.
frankly couldn't have been.
It
because
could or couldn't?
It could not have been.
How do you know you didn't talk to him?
Because the reason why you've seen
You
an
just
IRS
made this
that
statement that
hasn't been able,
every Republican in the House supports Israel only if it has been made easier for people to cheat on their taxes. Could it be that maybe a House member thought that, well, the more money we spend, the more deficits we have, and the more deficits we have, the more pressure is put on interest rates, and the higher interest rates go, the more it hurts the poor. Could that have been
Senator
the position
Kennedy-
of one of the House Republicans?
Senator Kennedy.
Could it have been theoretically?
Couldn't have been because
Could it-
everyone.
it couldn't have
agrees-
been?
It frankly could.
How do you know you didn't talk to him?
Well, I know that everyone agrees, including witnesses across the aisle, including CBO, including every single tax expert that has contemplated this question, that defunding the IRS makes deficits worse, not better. And so this is a deficit
I just find it,
increasing measure.
Professor, appalling that you would make a statement like this, a vicious statement like this, without talking to a single person about whom you made the statement. And I'm going to remind you, you can only be young once, but you can always be immature. And you ought to think about that.
Thank you.
When the dust settled in that hearing room, when the chairman had made his warnings and the cameras had captured every uncomfortable silence, one thing stood absolutely clear above everything else. Senator John Kennedy did not just win an argument that day. He defended a standard that says no matter how prestigious your institution, no matter how large your Twitter following, no matter how confidently you deliver your accusations, you do not get to declare the moral character and hidden motivations of hundreds of human beings without doing the basic, fundamental, non-negotiable work of actually talking to them. That is not a Republican standard. That is not a Democrat standard. That is a human standard. And Senator Kennedy refused to let it be trampled upon, simply because the hearing room cameras were rolling and the political climate made the accusation a popular one. Think about what the professor actually did. She did not analyze legislation in isolation and leave it there. She did not say the bill reflects a concerning policy priority. She went further. Much further. She declared publicly on Twitter, for the world to see, that every single House Republican would only support Israel if it was made easier for Americans to cheat on their taxes. That is not a policy critique. That is a character assassination of hundreds of elected officials, delivered without a single conversation, without a single interview, without a single attempt to understand the human beings she was condemning. And when Senator Kennedy placed that tweet in front of her and asked her to defend it under the weight of scrutiny rather than the comfort of a social media platform, she could not do it. Because you cannot defend the indefensible. You cannot justify knowing the hearts of people whose voices you have never sought. No CBO report, no expert consensus, no amount of policy data can substitute for the basic intellectual honesty of acknowledging where your knowledge ends and your assumption begins.